of Bimser International. Welcome, and thank you very much for your time and for your interest. Today, we'll be talking about digital transformation and how we can help organizations adopt digital transformation from different angles with different technologies. Today, we have a great agenda. We'll be talking about Bimser International. We'll be talking about Bimser International offering. And we also have experts talking about digital transformation and how companies can use technology, how they can adopt technology and digital transformation in this digital age. We're also looking for some answers as to how it's going to be the future of remote work and also the business environment, work environment moving forward. So we'll be talking about many different subjects today. And we have a great agenda in this sense. So I welcome you to our annual summit. As you may remember, we also got together last year and we talked about digital transformation as well. That was a little different time because we were just getting used to have remote work and we were looking for answer as to future of remote work. And we'll be also talking about it as well. And we have a great agenda today. We'll be talking about digital transformation. We'll be talking about technologies about digital transformation. We'll be talking about Bimser International and how companies in this modern age are actually using Bimser International software systems to adopt digital transformation, to simplify business processes and automate. Today, we also have different groups with us, in addition to our teams and also our channel partners, our customers. We also have manufacturers. We have as well as different businesses such as nonprofits, distribution companies, healthcare organizations, automotive, aerospace companies. So we have a whole bunch, and we definitely welcome you all. And of course, without our customers, without our channel partners, without our ecosystem, and also our ecosystem supporters, this event couldn't be happening. So in that sense, we definitely appreciate your support, and I'd like to thank our partners, our customers, and our ecosystem. As I mentioned earlier, we have different groups. Today also we have different manufacturing groups with us. So one of them, for example, Hapak Industry Association and manufacturing group of the association. So with us also there is Ran Loveland from manufacturing committee of Hapak Industry Association. Ran, would you like to say hello? I know there are different manufacturers also in the group.
Yeah, good morning, Kevin. Thank you for including me and the group with your presentation today. Looks like a great agenda. We're looking forward to working with you. You know, it's interesting. I just had a Newsday reporter reach out to me yesterday and asked me about you know, what are manufacturers doing to address the rising costs. You know, you got labor going crazy, supply chain. You know, he's talking about it used to be a container was a couple $1,000s. Now it's $20,000 or $30,000 to try to get a container in from overseas. So, you know, with these inflation's going crazy, you know, we see the reports in the news about inflation going up, what, 7-8% over last year, and just keeps on rising. So, you know, what's a manufacturer to do? Can you just raise your prices? Maybe, but you know, the other thing you got to do is look at your costs. So, you know, we talked about efficiency. You know, how can we be more efficient and get our costs down? The real focus there is on labor reduction, and in line with today's discussion, you know, what are the challenges that manufacturers are having? Well, it's labor, it's supply chain, and just trying to find the parts they need to be able to make the products. So you have to be super efficient. You know, one of the things that we do is, you know, safety, quality, and efficiency. On the efficiency side, it's looking at your process and getting the waste out, right? How many times have you walked through your factory and found people just standing around waiting for the next job to come through? Or maybe they're out, you know, where's Joe? Well, Joe's going looking for the tool he needs to be able to get the machine set up, you know. So all those waste inefficiencies going on need to be sorted out. So that's one of the things that we bring to the table, you know, using a lot of the lean manufacturing, Toyota production system techniques to get those efficiencies out. But the other thing these days is because manufacturers can't find labor, is they have to automate, right? So they're looking at ways to get the labor out by automating their process. Maybe there's a process where it's a routine, mundane, a simple task that a cobot or a robot can do. So a lot of manufacturers looking at that. On the packaging side, there's a lot of automation available in packaging, as well as a warehousing system. So those are the areas that manufacturers are trying to in the spirit of today's presentation, is looking to introduce automation to try to get the cost out. I just want to make a couple of announcements. Coming up on the I'm part of the Hauppauge Industrial Association Manufacturing Committee along with Kevin, and I'm also just recently appointed to the Aerospace Defense Board as well, ADAPT. On the end of the month, March the 28th, we have Sikorsky Aircraft coming in, an aftermarket product executive coming in to do a presentation at the Cradle on the 28th, so take a look at that. On the 26th, we have the HIA trade show, and within the trade show, we have a couple of pavilions going on. And I'll talk about the manufacturing pavilion. I'm sure Chris will talk about the technology pavilion. But within the manufacturing pavilion, we're looking at having a combination, a career and job fair. So introducing students to great careers, high-paying careers in manufacturing, as well as job seekers. Automation fair, we're going to have manufacturers going to bring along their automation partners, the folks that are helping them to plan and integrate robotics and automation. And then finally, it's a chance for manufacturers to meet new suppliers. During the pandemic, it was a big rush to try to get ventilators, try to get masks, try to get local supply for a lot of these things. So all those things are going to be going on. And then finally, I want to just mention that October 7th is going to be our manufacturing day. Last couple of years, we've done it remotely, but hopefully this year we can at least do a hybrid and get some in-person activities as well. So thank you, Kevin, for inviting me today to chat, and look forward to all the great information coming along on the symposium today.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated for these insights. Well, we see SYNERGIZE event as a platform. We see it as a platform for Bimser International ecosystem, where we can talk about technology, we can talk about digital transformation, as well as business itself, right? So in that sense, what Ram just mentioned as for the insights as to what is going on in manufacturing industry is very important. So some of them also will be addressing today in the scope of digital transformation, how we can help companies digitize and automate their business processes, how we can help organizations manage their supply chain issues, how we can help organizations become more efficient, as to Ram's points earlier. So in that sense, we are very excited for today's event. It only happens once a year. That is why we have been getting ready for this event, and we put together a great agenda. Moving forward in this opening phase, I also like to mention the digital transformation a little bit, but not much, because we have a great keynote speaker, so I'll just let him dive into the details. So it's basically adapting, actually taking the adapting organization strategy as well as structures to basically capture opportunities coming and enabled by the technology. So in that sense, it's very important for organizations for that adaptation. And as Bimser International, we are a global enterprise software publisher since 1998. We have been active nationally and internationally, and we have been active in many different parts of the markets. Manufacturing is one of them, automotive, aerospace, non-profits, as well as healthcare, medical device, and many other industries that we are active in. So we are serving different markets in that sense, different verticals. Also different sizes of organizations that we have been working with. So that is another experience that we have, and we'll be talking today, especially with our channel partners and our experts in the field. We have more than 3 million professional users and more than 2,000 corporate customers using our systems on a daily basis. So we help organizations digitize, automate, and adopt digital transformation with the help of our channel partners, of course, with the help of our software system. So we have actually specialized in workflow. Workflow is very important nowadays. We'll be also talking about challenges that we have been seeing in the marketplace, especially in the scope of efficiencies and working remotely, and what type of challenges companies are having. In that sense, having a low-code workflow technology is critical to digitize and automate business processes. Moving forward, we are also specialized in enterprise asset management, plant maintenance management, facility management, energy management. We'll be also learning about total manufacturing and maintenance management today from Ron, and he'll be also talking about fundamentals of it, and we'll also link it with BEAM software system that we have been developing since 1998 as for manufacturers and other organizations for smart plant maintenance and manufacturing, as well as facility management operations. We are also specialized in compliance and quality management that we'll be talking about today, how you can comply with HIPAA, how you can comply with, for example, ISO, as well as FDA and other organizations that's been actually requiring you to comply in the scope of workplace safety, efficiency, as well as having a management system in place that you can digitize and automate those processes with the help of QDMS, and we'll be also talking about as well moving forward. And we have partner hours as well as expert hours to talk about audit management and compliance management. And finally, we are also specialized in performance management. We all have KPIs and we all have different business processes in place. And with the help of Ensemble, we help you in an intelligent way, digitize, automate, and model your business processes, set KPIs in place, and you can also manage those KPIs with the help of Ensemble digitally. So this is what we have been doing since 1998. We are specialized in what we do, and we'll be talking about it today in the scope of digital transformation, in the scope of also different industries as well. Manufacturing is one of them. Also distribution, healthcare, automotive, aerospace, as well as medical device, energy. We'll be talking about different industries today moving forward. And we have reputable organizations using our systems, our software systems for many, many years. We are active nationally and internationally. That is why we have many different references from different industries and from different parts of the world, nationally and internationally, as I mentioned. So we are proud of it, and we really appreciate our customers. We really appreciate our channel partners, and together we'll be able to help more and more organizations for digital transformation and also addressing efficiencies and automation needs in the marketplace. Great. So this is our basically opening speech. So it's time for keynote speech. So we have been getting ready for the keynote speech, and it's actually full of information and knowledge. And I'm happy to introduce Chris Coluccio from TechWorks. Chris is the CEO of TechWorks organization. We work very close with TechWorks, and Chris is a great speaker. He always brings a lot of insights to any organization that he is with. And there are many things that we need to be learning about digital transformation from in the scope of digitization, automation, as well as working remotely. Without further ado, I like to let Chris take the virtual stage, and we'll continue SYNERGIZE today. Thank you very much again for joining, and we'll continue with the keynote speech. Chris, floor is yours. Thank you.
Hey, Kevin, thank you so much. And thanks for having me, SYNERGIZE 2022. I'm super excited to be here. Love being a part of these kind of events, and, you know, just happy to be able to add to the conversation of digital transformation and how we can, you know, help people figure out where they are in digital transformation and where they can go, and, you know, how to deal with all this disruption that's around us. I mean, we've been dealing with so many years, but, you know, is there going to be more disruption? And of course, there is going to be some more disruption. And how do we make our businesses survive? And how can we actually get a mindset that gets us ready for transforming? And what are the ways to do that? So super excited to do that. I'm going to start you guys off. We're going to start everybody off watching a quick video that really, I think, describes the stages of digital transformation. And when you watch this video, just, you know, pay special attention to the fact that this could be really any one of us that gets shocked by the change that goes on, and how even some of the simplest businesses are really have to think about being technology businesses and businesses that transform nowadays. So I'm going to share that video first before we get into our presentation. It's about 4 or 5 minute video, but I think you guys will enjoy it. So give me a second, I'll get that rolled up. And we're going to play the video out for you guys. So you guys should see my screen.
Yes, looks great.
Awesome. We're going to get playing right now.
I'm sorry, Mr. Baker, but you've developed a severe gluten intolerance.
Can I get one gluten-free croissant?
Yeah.
Wait, does that have butter in it?
Yes.
You wouldn't happen to have any without butter, like a butter substitute? Like olive oil or canola oil? Coconut oil, grapeseed oil? I mean, any oils at all?
I gotta return this croissant.
Return a croissant?
There's no nuts. I took a bite. No nuts on the inside. No almonds, no cashews. There's no peanuts in there. There's no walnuts. I expected nuts.
I'm allergic to nuts. I'm also allergic to eggs, milk, butter, sugar.
I'm not allergic to nuts. I'm not allergic to anything. I just want nuts. Just some nuts. Any kind of nuts. Too many nuts. Too many nuts back there. Is there nuts in that thing? Is there nuts in that thing over there?
Every year, thousands of people are diagnosed with a gluten intolerance. Where will they go when they need custom-made croissants?
Hi, I'm Joseph from Joseph's Gluten-Free Bakery. When I was diagnosed with a gluten intolerance, I thought my life was over. But after seeing just how many people want custom-made gluten-free croissants, I seized the opportunity to cook up the Croissant Creator app.
The Croissant Creator app.
With over 3 billion combinations, the Croissant Creator app allows you to build your croissant any way you like it and have it delivered fresh to your door.
Or come on down to the store and ask for Joseph. I'll make it for you myself.
He will make it himself. Joseph.
Joseph's Bakery. Let your biggest concerns be my biggest opportunities.
When you're hungry for some dough, you gotta go to Joseph.
So interesting video. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I mean, I love watching that video because in some ways it's such a simple, somebody who just wants to bake some bread and give that out now has to have some kind of an epiphany, and we go through these stages, and but at the end realizes that he can make a real great product and creation by adopting some new technologies and really being able to cater to what an audience wanted, and that's some diversification and not just making one product. So it's a very interesting video to see because it's not really just about digital transformation, but how any kind of disruption really sometimes gives us those opportunities to succeed and to reinvent ourselves. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit more about today. What is digital transformation? How are we going to get there? What's affecting it? How does it, why are all of our businesses affected by these kind of digital transformations? How do we modify that? And do we need to change? Some businesses don't. Some businesses might be able to succeed without it. But for the most part, most of us need to actually kind of look at, whether or not we're holding on to some of the old technologies, some of the old ways of doing things. So let me get into my agenda. I'm going to share out my PowerPoint right now. So we'll get started on that in 2 seconds as I get my slideshow started. And once again, I really appreciate everybody joining. So. So let me know, Kevin, you guys can see okay what I'm sharing out now?
Yes, looks good.
Awesome. Thanks so much. All right. So let me go over my PowerPoint screen. All right, cool. So we're going to talk a little bit digital transformation. I'll go over what's our agenda for today, right? What we'll be discussing, right? We're going to do a little bit of introduction, just a quick introduction of who I am and why you might want to listen to me, why I get to do these kind of speeches regularly, and sometimes people show up to them and actually enjoy them. So we'll do that quickly. We're going to talk about what the heck is digital transformation, that definitional kind of way that we talked about it already, and how you can stop it. Well, that's a lie. You really can't stop it, but we'll go into that too. I'm going to tell you a couple secrets about digital transformation. We're going to decide whether or not we're going to be disruptors or disrupted, and what that means, and how you have to, and whether whether you can make a choice or it just happens to you. We're going to talk about something called that I made up, called the burden of the past. Interesting little concept, right? We're going to go through the 6 stages of digital transformation and where we fit in, where each one of our businesses might actually land inside those stages of digital transformation. And we're going to talk about moving forward. Like, if you really want to start this digital transformation journey, how are we going to get started, and how are we going to transform, and what decisions and how do we have to think about that, and and where do we start really? So we're going to get into that, and then obviously if we have some time, we're going to do some questions. Hopefully I'll give you a few good answers, right? So Let's go out to the next slide. So about TechWorks Consulting, really, we're an outsourced IT service provider. We've been around for 20 years. I've been doing this for around 30 years and all sorts of different levels. And we get to see so many different types of businesses that are at so many different stages of their IT and their technology journey, I would say. And we get to kind of take the best of those and see what works with other clients and understand why sometimes it's successful and why sometimes their digital transformations are unsuccessful. So we've been around 20 years. We do outsourced IT for businesses of all sizes, internationally and local. We've gone all over the world with TechWorks. And so we really believe that if you embrace technology, that you can make your business have much more value, get a good return on investment, and not really look at technology as just a cost to our business, right? It's really something that helps us be transformative when used correctly. So a little bit about me. I said I've been here 30 years. TechWorks, we have 30 staff members. I also run the Technology for Business committee for the HIA. And we do events regularly like Ron does, and we're going to be doing a pavilion also inside of the HIA trade show where we're going to have speakers come around and trade show. We're going to be doing very similar stuff to what Ron's doing and have a event that's really focused on having some good manufacturers of technology in those areas. So would love you guys to join that. I also vice president of the MacArthur Business Alliance, which is a very big organization that services around the MacArthur Airport. So big proud dad. And so we'll get started, right? So what the heck is digital transformation, right? Digital transformation. This is the kind of Wikipedia answer to that, right? It's this fundamental change that an organization goes through to give value and new value to its customers. It's any kind of transformation. But you'll notice that in that definition and in these definitions, the word technology is not in there, which is weird because it's digital transformation, but they're not defining it necessarily with technology, except they're saying how we use technology. So it's interesting because that's that definition that we have, but there's a lot of, I want to say, it's not a lot about technology, but we'll get into that, right? So let's talk about why digital transformation, like what are we up against and why is digital transformation so important? And the digital transformation, and these are the kind of topics that I get to talk about at the end of the day. What are we up against? We're up against things like how we adopt to cloud. Everybody's moving to cloud and I'm still having servers. And is that giving me a digital transformation? You know, we're up against remote workforces, all of us kind of being forced into this remote workforce. Well, I got to be honest with you, the biggest digital transformation that we've seen in almost all of our clients is what happened during COVID, right? That remote workforce change, we were expecting that change to take maybe 3 to 5 years before people really started using the Zoom technologies and the Teams technologies and that kind of stuff. But the digital transformation was forced upon us all, that we all had to get into that remote workforce mentality, and nobody thought it was going to happen as it did, but you know, that's what happens in this world, and those that are flexible to it really took advantage of it. And you know, and some of us took better advantage of it than others. Some of us were more prepared. Some of us had to spend a lot of money to catch up, but that was a big disruptor that came in. You know, the stack software that we're talking about, what is the stack? The stack is that now all of the industries are getting to the point where the entire industry is kind of pre-set up, right? You can go out and your competitors can come in and they can join and then go out and buy a piece of software that maybe you've been using for 30 years, but now it's all set up for them. You've done all the hard work, setting up, talking with the manufacturers, the software vendors, getting that software set up. And now this industry is set up and they can just kind of like cookie cutter it in there and get all of that knowledge and expertise all in one piece of software right now. And we used to struggle with that. So it's we're up against that technology that allows competitors to come into market in some cases much easier than they used to, right? So obviously big data and the ability and how much data that we have inside our networks, you know, that's gold that all of our businesses have and we don't use. So, but a lot of the better businesses we're up against, or we're talking about this transformation of businesses that are using technology and making good decisions off of the data that they have, but not just the data they have, the data that is out there in the world that they can combine with the data they have to make better decisions about who their good customers are, about whether that data is valuable to be able to be resold, to use that data in a way that it's never been used before. It's got a big value, and it's the new gold. It's new gold. It's the new oil is really data right now. So we're up against businesses that are looking to take advantage of that. And if we're not thinking about that, that's the world we're living in right now. So this thing of APIs, this interface with businesses that allows all these businesses to, all these different pieces of software to communicate better, where we used to not, we had an Excel spreadsheet and we had a different SQL database and we had another piece of software and we had to kind of play in between all of those. And now those businesses that are looking to integrate that makes them much more efficient and much more, able to think about how they interact all of their data together. So obviously IoT is coming. It's here in a lot of ways, but it's coming even more. And that IoT everywhere is changing all of our businesses, whether it's smart thermostats, whether it's smart TVs, smart toasters, whatever it is, or smart machinery for that matter. Machinery that doesn't, necessarily just put an alarm out when that machine is having a problem, but is actually predicting that it's having a problem. It's getting out into that world and saying, hey, I'm smart enough to know that my machine's not due for an oil change for another, 15 or 20 days, but my oil's getting thin or the viscosity is breaking down. And it's actually, so these things are now everywhere. They're surrounding us, and the smart businesses are looking at that and taking advantage of it. And that's where we're at, right? So security and compliance, it's on our radar, where we might not even be able to compete if we don't change our practices from a security and compliance standpoint, and the automations that might need to go along with that. So obviously digital transformation, industry 4.0, that's what Ron was talking about, the robotics, the things that I talked about a little bit about changes in the industry, these cobots and robots, and we're seeing an industry that especially in America and especially on Long Island has kind of been trying to force that and keep that out of their systems for so long, because they bought machinery that was great years ago and all that kind of stuff. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but we see that transformation in an industry, and it's much easier nowadays. If you were going to go out and start up that new business, you can put all this stuff in right away, but now these older businesses are suffering a little bit. We'll talk more about that. So everything as a service, and that's basically, nowadays, you don't have to go out and maybe do these huge investments on computer products and services and all that stuff. This everything as a service is kind of one of the things that we're up against, where it's good and it's bad. We don't have to lay out so much capital, but we are now beholden to companies that are giving our services and what happens when those services work and don't work. But it's kind of coming. There's no way, I don't see any way around that, us getting most of our products and most of the things that we do as a business in a service set mindset. We don't go out and buy a piece of software that we just put on a server that lasts for maybe 5 or 10 years, and then we go out and buy an upgrade. We're buying it service-based, and they're upgrading it all the time, and they're changing it. So that's good, but it's also bad in some ways, because we have to change too with it, and we're beholden to that stuff. So obviously, virtual and augmented reality, we're starting to see that now. This is one that's been around forever. It's coming more. We'll talk a little bit about, how it's being used. Digital ethics and privacy. We're starting to see that businesses that are being required to put privacy into their stuff and to say, what are you doing with that data that you have? Are you being ethical with the data that I'm, as a consumer, am handing off to you? Because a lot of businesses aren't. And unfortunately, that's when the consumer is actually going to be demanding that we are more ethical and that we have better privacy standards with our systems moving forward. So that digital ethics and privacy, I think that the consumer is now just starting to say, hey, well, I'm willing to give my data out to these businesses. Are they going to take good care of that? Are they going to be good stewards of it? So we're living in a world that says digital ethics and privacy is becoming more important. And I think that the businesses that actually put themselves out there that say we are going to be more ethical and we are going to be take better care of your data are going to have a strategic advantage. So blockchains, we talked, that's a change in the world that, maybe it's going to be integrated in some of those everything as a service inside the software that we have, but blockchains, as much as Bitcoin is very cool and these cryptocurrencies are cool, the blockchain is even cooler because it allows us to do things that we could never do before. like digital contracts that are immutable, that can't change forever, and that are available on the fly, or can actually change on condition because they're digital. So if some condition happens, we can automatically get paid more money, or automatically make a change to a contract if somebody didn't do what they said to do. And it's an immutable change. It's not something we agreed upon. We don't necessarily have to argue about it. The blockchain for that, for things like NFTs, these non-fungible tokens and stuff, now we have the ability to take some of our own creative content and put some value to it that just can't get repeated over and over again. And it's very, very interesting. The blockchain is probably one of the most powerful tools out there for businesses to look at, how they can transform and how they can use that technology. Obviously 5G cellular, it's kind of here right now, but it's Wi-Fi everywhere all the time, which means that, if you're a business that needs high-speed data and had to go to a coffee shop before, or had to stop, now you're driving in your car, your person's driving, who's ever driving in that vehicle or autonomous vehicle, they're connected high speed. In fact, sometimes higher speeds than we ever had even inside our buildings, cellular. So think about the world that opens up for us, right? And those customers that are, or those clients, my clients, or those businesses that are looking at that, they're going to have some strategic advantages, right? So this is what we're up against and why we need the digital transformation. Artificial intelligence, it's coming, and we're seeing a lot of artificial intelligence, but it's not necessarily in those kind of robots that are smart and walking around and, maybe answering, opening the doors for us, or it's not that kind of, it's the Alexas and the other tools that we have around us, or it's the looking at business processes and being smart enough to be able to change the way something happens as more people use a certain portion of your product or don't. And they can basically understand that, because of the way people actually, what the kind of questions that they ask for, or what they're asking on Alexa, now that we might be able to deliver better data because of that, or sell a different product, or, if we have that kind of information, they're actually recommending that, people might be more interested in cats than dogs this week. Maybe we need to sell the cat line. That kind of stuff is what's going on in there. So smart places, this is that we're actually looking at, as new cities and new construction and new things get built, they're building them is not just a smart building that we used to have, right? But this smart whole entire block, this whole entire city is now starting to be smart with automated garbage cans that tell the garbage company when to pick them up. And so this stuff is coming, and we got to be a part of it, right? So digital twins is one of these coolest things that I think that's coming out, and you're going to see a lot. And this is that concept that we can basically create a digital copy of, let's say, myself, or a digital copy of a building. And what we can do is we can stress test that building, or we may be able to say, hey, if I make a digital copy of Chris and I introduce some drug for him because we want to solve a problem that he's having, how is that going to affect his system? So they create very complex digital versions of a person, or of a system, or of a building. So that digital twin is kind of really, really neat, because that digital twin, you can now do things like say, we created this building, and how is it going to affect, the lighting for the building next door? Or how is it, if you change the heat in one area, how is that going to affect the building moving forward? And then how is it going to affect our bills, and how much oil do we use, and all that kind of stuff. So they really create, robust, a digital version of what exists in the physical world, and then we get to stress test it and do that kind of stuff. Very cool stuff in the digital twin world. Quantum computing, it's coming. Sorry. Quantum computing is coming. It's definitely getting faster, and that's going to change everything. We're now starting to talk about some of these technologies that are more out there and maybe a little bit further away. But as soon as quantum computing comes out, everything that we use as far as security and passwords is going to kind of be irrelevant. Those passwords are going to be able to be cracked now that would take days or weeks to crack, might take minutes. So we're going to have to think about how we offer more security to our clients, and how we keep ourselves more secure. The good part about that is that quantum computing is also going to allow us to create better kinds of security and better kinds of passwords. So it's always that double-edged sword. But so that's coming too. And so that's kind of the stuff that we're up against. It's a world I used to say we would be living in soon, but we're there. Most of these technologies that I'm talking about, businesses nowadays that are changing and adapting and going through their digital transformation, they're taking this stuff in and they really are starting to embrace this in one way or another. Maybe not all of them, or maybe they're looking at how they can enhance a certain product with some of these technologies, right? So which autonomous things. So I'm going to go through that and whatever else is next, right? So what I want to do though is I want to give you guys a little secret, right? And that secret really is that digital transformation has nothing to do with those technologies that I just talked about. Although those technologies are important, it's really not about that technology. It's only a very, very small portion. In fact, it's got very little to do with technology. Digital transformation, it's not just about embracing new technologies and saying we're going to put a new technology into our product or our business. It's about how the businesses work together. They organize change, how they adapt and look at these technologies and the mindsets of those businesses that are willing to be more agile, to change more, to be able to deal with an uncertain future, an uncertain solution. It's about change through an organizational culture. It means accelerating the way we do business and the activities, and maybe, you know, lowering some of our costs, improving ourselves to market. But really, there's a lot of change that's going on, and it's more about how we embrace that change inside our organizations and us as people, or how much we fight those changes as to how, whether or not we're going to be able to digitally transform. So that's the big secret about digital transformation, is everybody thinks that digital transformation really is, oh, well, I got this new technology, I'm going to put it into my business and my business is going to be great. You know, I went out and I bought a new machine and my business is going to be, we just digitally transformed. The truth is that most people on their journey of digital transformation, their first, second, even third attempts at kind of adding technology and saying that this is going to change my business, about 70% of the time, those really fail to get off the ground the way that they thought they were going to, because they're either forcing it inside a culture that's not ready for it, or they haven't changed themselves. They just think it's a panacea. So, and the other secret that I have is that your technology providers, the companies like me, the software providers, they're struggling with this too. The fact that we believe that technology is the driving force for digital transformation, that's actually part of the problem. We really need these systems that get put together. But a company like myself, I have to digitally transform. I mean, if I could tell you the way my business was 20 years to what we do now, obviously all of us have changed, but my industry changes every 3 to 5 years. We're reinventing ourselves. But it's a struggle because it's getting more complicated now for us, and it's happening faster. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So, and sometimes these software vendors, are not staying up with the technology. So maybe they're holding you back from your digital transformation, or maybe your technology company is holding you back from the transformation that you want to do because they're not up on the newest technology. So we got to be careful about who our partners are and who we deal with in a world where digital transformation is happening, but this old product's holding us back, or this old partner is holding us back. We got to be careful about that. So this kind of concept that it's this multidisciplinary involvement, it really takes a change in mindset. It's really the data analytics of a company, the technology integration, how digital literate we are, the ways that we experience these technologies, how we deliver the technology to our customers and how they use those technologies, and the people in operations who are part of those, those roles, whether those people are able to embrace this new technology, whether we're willing to train them on those new technologies. That's really what we're talking about in the digital transformation mindset. The digital transformation is, as much as it's about embracing technologies that help us transform, it really is much, much more than just the technology. And I can repeat that over and over again so that we really understand that. So it's all of those things. And then it's a lot more, as much about the processes and procedures. If you take bad processes and procedures and you make them digital, they're just bad digital processes and procedures, right? So we really got to think about that. It's this kind of holistic approach that needs to be taken, right? So the question then is, now we decide, all right, are we the disruptor or the disrupted, right? So are we going to be the disruptor because the disruption is happening no matter what, or are we going to be disrupted? We have to make a choice. So many businesses that were out there decided that the technologies, they didn't need to pay attention to the technologies. I don't know if it's Blockbuster. I mean, everybody was busy. You know, it could have been, GM when they went bankrupt, and all these things that kind of disrupted these businesses. They were all busy doing what they were doing, and somehow or another they got slammed by a new technology that came in and kind of disrupted their whole world, right? So which one are we going to choose, right? So are we digital innovators or are we digital bystanders, right? Are we sitting there watching it go by, watching it happen to us and saying, oh, I didn't expect that to happen? But the truth is a lot of this stuff is predictable. All of those technologies that I showed you, if they're not here now, they're going to be here really soon, and they're going to be affecting our organizations. So we need to see disruption as an opportunity and not an adversary. We need to look at that as an opportunity. And to be honestly, we have to say that if we choose not to decide, we've made a choice. We've made a choice to be disrupted. So there's a lot of ways to look at that. You could say, well, I'm going to keep an eye. I'm going to watch the tea leaves, and I'm just going to wait to see what happens, and I'm going to make a move. Or am I going to be the one that's going to make a move and do other things and and be the disruptor in the industry, right? But either way, it's going to happen to us. We're either going to be disrupted or we're going to be the disruptor, right? And this is kind of that slide. I love this slide because it's so simple, that says, hey, we're so busy doing our day-to-day, doing things the way we did them in the past, and people are buying it and people are doing it. But then all of a sudden something comes in and we're like, no, don't need to pay attention to that. It's not that important because we're so busy and I'm getting my job done. But that disruption comes in and you go, hey, no, thanks, I don't need it. This is a perfect slide to kind of show off why we might need to get outside of ourselves sometimes and look at the world around us and say, is something really going to put it in, going to change our business radically, and am I prepared for it, right? So, and I go back to another slide that says, think about how fast things change now, and the number of years that it took for products in the past to gain 50 million users. I mean, you think about the airplane, it was almost 70 years before airlines were able to get 50 million users. And then you see it gets faster and faster. Even the television, there were 22 years before 50 million people had TVs. And then Twitter took less than 2 years, and Pokemon Go less than 19 days. But the interesting part about that is that a lot of these technologies got $50 million 50 million users in adoption in 19 days. In 20 years from now, or just like, the TV is still around, but that Pokemon Go, it's probably going to be gone. It's not going to be around anymore. So not only was it wildly successful, but it's also wildly subject to the disruption of technology because of the way it is, because of these new technologies. And we all have to think that way. I created a great product. I got 50 million users, and chances are in 5 years from now, something else is going to take it away. So we got to be thinking about that. How long can we last under the products that we have, the technologies that we use, and how often do we need to change that stuff? Because as interesting as it is to go from the fact that, it took 12 years for the cell phone to get 50 million users, are we going to get to a point where cell phones are relevant because Elon Musk is planting the damn thing in our brain, right? So we just got to think like that, and, and make some choices, right? So we're going to ask a question of, why do businesses not change? All right. What is it that makes them hold on to their old processes and procedures? Like when I was a kid, I had this G.I. Joe with a Kung Fu grip that wouldn't let go. We wanted to hold on to the vine forever, right? So, and we see so many businesses. I see so many businesses that we work with on a daily basis that make it that maybe don't even understand that they're making a decision to not change. And why do they make those? What is it about the businesses, or what is it about our mentality that's holding us back from actually doing digital transformation and transforming our businesses with that mindset? And it's this thing that I call the burden of the past. If you think about the burden of the past, it's if you built New York City and you built it with all this infrastructure and you put all the cables and wires in the ground, you have all this infrastructure that's copper based. And now somebody's out and they're building a new city and they're going to say, well, we don't need copper wire anymore. All those people that invested all that money in copper, they said, we got to still use that copper. We have so much invested in it. The new city's going, oh, fiber and wireless and all that kind of stuff. So you actually find, as you travel into some of these, some even third world countries now, the infrastructure that they're building is more efficient and more better right? Because they don't have the burden of the past. They don't have to worry about taking care of the older technologies. They don't have to worry about whether or not somebody's still making money on that technology and how they, and how they physically remove those old technologies. They don't have that burden of the past. So they can just go in with a fresh mindset. And this is what's happening to us, like I said before, with new companies that are coming into our industry spaces. They're coming in with a new mindset that says, I'm going to build a new factory. It's going to be the best, most efficient factory in the world. And now the manufacturer who's been around for 40 years is doing it. They have the advantage of customers and experience, but that a factory is so efficient and so much, and gets so much more accomplished, and can produce a better end product for the customer with how they alert their customers and track their products along the way. That's where the competition is. It's the fact that we're just still trying to make that old stuff work. So what is it about that? There's a lot of businesses that say, I'm going to hold on to this stuff and we're not going to change because it's this matter of principle. I don't want to fix it. My old piece of machinery is not broken. Why would I go out and buy a new piece of machinery? I can make it work. It's maybe people see it as wasteful in some cases. It's, the principle of that is there. If it's not broken, I don't want to change it. I still could use this old thing. And until I'm forced to change, I'm going to still try to make this stuff work. So then there's that thrill. I see a lot of business saying, well, I have an old piece of equipment and I'm the only one who knows how to still use it. And to be honest with you, we see this. I have some clients who are like, oh, the owner of the company is the only one who knows how to fix this old machine. And he's down there working on that machine, but he's not working on his business, right? Or he's down there. So there are these tinkerers. They can't resist trying to make these technologies, these older pieces of equipment or softwares, try to continue to get that working. And they find some pride in that. And that's really cool, but is it good for our businesses? So there's a lot of people that think like that. It's the fear of the learning curve, this uncomfortable feeling that we get when we're overwhelmed by the change that's around us and how we have to train our users. Are they going to be able to do that? What's next? I don't know. I'm comfortable doing what I'm doing. And to go out there and put the learning curve in is, it takes some new effort. It takes us learning and doing that stuff and having a mentality of that never stop learning. And when you've been doing something for 30 years, you might say, I don't know if I want to put that kind of effort in. So it's interesting, right? So old doesn't mean outdated or dysfunctional. When it comes to dysfunctional, it's hard for us to decide what old means. Can we add? So a lot of people, they think that, I look at a server and I say a 5-year-old server is really old. And then I'll have a client who says, well, yeah, but my last server lasted me 20 years. And it's like, it doesn't really work like that. So this relative term of what old is, and whether it's functional or it's profitable or whether it increases processes are two different things. And we kind of got to get on the same page of that. Old doesn't necessarily mean old because, there are products that I bought a year ago that are now old for me. Right? I can't use them anymore. And there are products that I bought 20 years ago that are still functional. So we got to really figure that out and use these terms and really think about that a little bit. So it's a lack of time and motivation. I mean, business owners that have been around, I talked to some of my clients, they've been doing this for 30 years and they're like, oh, I'm just kind of done. Nobody really wants to take over the business. So I'm going to ride it out. And they don't, they're not motivated to do it, or maybe, they can't find a successor, it's just because of so much effort that goes in, they're lacking some motivation to be able to actually change. And we got to figure out whether or not that's what it is. And maybe we need to put in some new people inside our organizations that are more motivated than us to make our businesses more profitable. Maybe it's time to just step aside and say, who's the next, who's the next gun that wants to be able to take care of this and run my business for me in a motivated way, and I can just be a visionary, or I can just do some other kind of work inside that still makes me happy and still helps this business move forward. But I need to put some people in there that have some more time and motivation to really see the digital transformation process through, right? This process of privacy, I still hear this all the time. I can run things on my spreadsheets, and if it's my server's local, then it's my server and nobody, it can't get hacked into, or, nobody can burn up my journal, or it's kind of bupkis. It doesn't really matter whether your technology is sitting on your laptop, whether it's sitting in the cloud, whether it's a journal that you have. We all have some kind of there's privacy that we're going to lose. And I hear a lot of companies still to this day say, I want that feeling that, it's mine and it's real here. And that's kind of tough because, like I said, the everything as a service world is pushing hard back against that stuff, back against the privacy, because we have to demand that the companies that we do business have more privacy in them and that they take good stewards of our data. But it really doesn't work anymore. It's not a good argument because, unfortunately, the new businesses that come in, they're not worried about that stuff. They're going straight to the cloud and they're running offices that are much more efficient. And so, yeah, this kind of desire to carry on a legacy, to pass down the tradition. This is the way we've always done things. My business has always been successful this way. I want to teach the people what I know and what I've learned over those years. But has the world changed enough that we've always done it that way? And that works in some industries, right? If you're running a long-term business that cooks the same kind of food, you want that tradition to be there. But at that point in time, you've been cooking the same food, you're a restaurant that's been doing that, and now all of a sudden, COVID hits and you can't deliver that food, people can't come in. Were you willing to now say, okay, well, a portion of my business, that piece of legacy where we didn't deliver needs to go away? So we need to pick and choose what parts of those legacies stay and what parts of the legacy of our businesses change. And that doesn't mean that there aren't businesses out there. I know somebody, a buddy of mine he actually makes shoes, as a shoemaker, and he's got as nice a house and does very well for himself, just, actually still repairing shoes and doing shoe repair. And that's a good business. But, there used to be 50 of that businesses, and now there's one, and that's why they're successful, because he's the only one doing it. So we kind of got to decide, are we going to try to outlast everybody with our legacy, or are we going to change certain portions of our business, right? So, and then I hear this one all the time. Well, someone like Woody Allen, he can make $1 million doing things on a manual. So I can just write I can write on a typewriter, I can do things my old way, and that's going to be fine. And I can still make $1 million doing that. And, he wrote all his manuscripts. But the truth is, behind someone like Woody Allen is an entire industry of people that are digital. So yes, this one person can stay, and you might be able to do this in your own business where you stay in the world of doing things manually, of doing things the old-fashioned way. But behind someone like Woody Allen or whoever you want to say that writes his manuals, still writes, his stuff on a typewriter today, the entire industry and all his assistants and all the other people that do the work for him, they've digital transformed for him. So we got to be careful about that. And it's okay. You might be able to do that in your business where you don't have to change so much, but that doesn't mean your business doesn't have to change. So that's that burden of the past. These are the kind of things that may be holding us back from making those changes, right? So now that we understand that, how do we make a decision to change? What's the stages, the path? How do we get there? Where do we exist in the path to digital transformation, right? What are we looking at? So we're looking at these 6 stages of digital transformation. Where are you in your journey? Where's your business in this journey to digital transformation? And we look at this model to kind of say, hey, we're all somewhere in this business. We're doing business as usual. We're familiar with our legacy stuff, we're okay with that. We believe that technology is a cost burden. We'll put it in when we need it. It's not really, it's kind of a necessary evil, but we don't really see it like these are businesses that look at me and say, I have no budget for IT, but they do, because there's IT all around them. They're not embracing that as a part of their business. And then we move to what we see probably most businesses nowadays. They're kind of in this present and active. They're kind of dipping their toes in certain products. It's disparate, somebody in one department's doing something, somebody else is doing something else, and maybe they'll come together, but nobody's really owning the transformation model, and the technology and the future planning of that technology is not really out there. It's like, this is a cool thing. Maybe we'll try to implement it. Maybe we won't. I find most businesses are somewhere between that present and active formalized world. So the formalized world says that we start to become intentional. We start to look out past how these technologies might be able to enhance our businesses. And we start saying what technologies might go out and, result in change. And maybe we start putting some people in place to be the people who are responsible for those products and implementing those products in a business, or bringing the entire team together to discuss how a product is going to be useful for us or a new technology. We start putting some more resources into that, and we start budgeting for those technologies because we know that they're going to be help us advance. And then we move into this more strategic. I'd say this is kind of maybe where TechWorks is in ours. We have individual groups that recognize the strength that we need to do. We do a lot of research. We're sharing insights, roadmaps and plans. We're really trying to take ownership of our digital transformation. We put a lot of efforts into it. But it's not all there. We still have lots of disparate technologies. Maybe that's part of the way the industry is. So we find that few businesses, especially the businesses we deal with, are in that kind of strategic model. They're maybe getting there. Maybe they're, we have a couple, they're really starting to say, now I see, because of things like the pandemic, or the security issues that are going on, the ransomware and all that kind of stuff, I see that I have to take a more strategic view. I can't just take a back seat and let my business suffer because I'm not focusing on the technologies that are there, or the technologies that we have that might not be serving us correctly. And then past that, we start seeing businesses that are really like converged. They're all of their software and their technology start to work together. Their manufacturing pieces that are on their floor alert, they're putting these processes, Kanban and other stuff together to really say, how does all this stuff fit? They're building infrastructure, and they're building the new ways. Everything's kind of designed to work together in a new mindset. And that's really, if you can get to that, that's you'd be light years ahead of most of your competitors if you can get to that converged stage and really embrace the technology and everything that you do in the mindset of your processes and procedures. You've built better processes, you've built better procedures, and you've also digitized those processes and automated those processes and added some kind of AI maybe to those processes. And then you get into this innovative and adaptive. And listen, those are the Googles and the Amazons. And, there's some businesses that I know that are relatively small that's the way they function. Everything about them is digital, and how they, can be super efficient. And they may be in that industry. Maybe they're doing web development, or maybe they're doing, they're doing content creation, and they need to be that. They need very rapid change. They need to be a part of that digital transformation model. Social media people like that. Everything is digital. Everything's got to be efficient and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of those different stages. And to be honest with you, like I said, if you get to the formalized strategic stage, you're probably more advanced than most of the businesses that we're dealing with right now, and we're trying to get them into those areas. So think about where you might be there and why it might be successful. If you're strategic about technology, and it's not, when you get to the strategic phase, that's when you're at least not being scared, or you're not being disrupted, or you're not being fearful that something's going to come in and say, or maybe you're not even open to the fact that there's technologies out there that might put you out of business, that might change your business or change the way you do things, because you're more strategic and you're more looking with some more foresight. So do you really want to change? If you really want to transform, this is a sincere question, because I got to be honest with you, not every business owner that I deal with wants to. Some of them are riding it out. Some of them just want to continue to make their money. And like I said, they may not want to change. It's a sincere question that we have to ask ourselves is, are we ready for that digital transformation? Are we ready to embrace these new technologies? Are we ready to embrace the new partners and that are going to help us there? Are we ready to embrace the new employees and people that are going to help us change? It's a very sincere question, and it's not one that everybody can answer with an affirmative yes, right? Because it's not easy. It's a battle. It's a change in mindset, even for myself, who does this regularly and deals with technologies, and even for the people in my organization who want to say, listen, we just built this technology and it works great. And you're going to tell me in a year from now, we're going to rip it out and do it again because something else is coming? Yeah, that's what we need to do. It's hard, right? It's not easy to do that stuff. But once you get your handle on it, it becomes more successful. You kind of got to know, if you're going to answer that question, well, what's your end game, right? If your end game is to be selling a business, well, maybe you need to do some of this stuff. Maybe you don't. Maybe you need to transform a little bit to bring some more value. The way that you do processes and procedures don't give you enough value or maybe your old equipment is not something that somebody wants, right? Or maybe you're selling and you're saying, hey, I got enough here. I'm ready to sell that business. So what's your end game inside there? Are you closing your business down because you're the only one who works in it, or the only, you don't see a legacy there? Are you merging with other companies? Or are you going to be growing? You have to kind of know where your end game is. You got to keep future thinking in order to be in a digital transformation mindset. And if you don't understand where you really are, if you haven't done that soul searching, then you're going to have a hard time with transformation, because your core value is not necessarily to change, because your core value is, hey, I just want to sell my business, right? Something along those lines, right? Are you willing to learn, right? This continual learning and improvement, the things that we did last year, although they help us build and they're bricks into what makes us successful, we also need to learn new stuff. And some of those things need to be thrown away. I mean, we had a lot of people, I used to know a lot of friends who their job was to take care of large phone systems inside large corporations. And they never really learned more about what was going on with voice over IP systems and new technologies. And all of a sudden that company came in and said, we're getting rid of all that legacy equipment, and we're going to be putting in a voice over IP system that's run by IBM or Microsoft. And that person was out of a job and with no useful skill set anymore, because nobody wanted that skill set. So we have to be willing to continually look and learn and improve business value and improve that stuff, and not be slapped in the face by that change, right? So are you ready to lose some control? In this digital transformation world, the micromanager doesn't work. It doesn't work because you have to have an entire mindset of people that want to work with a technology change, and nobody can understand all of the changes and all the technologies. So you have to create a more collaborative organization. The micromanaging of every little thing that went on in an organization becomes almost overwhelming when you're in a digital transformation model. You have to have people that, and there's ways to be able to do that. There's ways to use the transformation, but you're going to lose some control on this model when you start transforming, because you need partners, you need software that you never understood. You need people that know that software better than you do, know the processes better than you do in order to do that. So we got to be willing to give some control. The micromanagers of businesses have a hard time with this, because they're not willing to give up and let somebody else create new processes and do new things for them. They want to control everything, right? Can you get out of your own way? I mean, we talked a little bit about this. There's a new breed of leadership that's out there that is being tailor-made for this kind of change. They're starting their own businesses. They're young entrepreneurs. There are other people that you might be able to hire that are looking with a mindset that wasn't ever comfortable. They didn't spend the last 30 years doing the same thing. They spent the last 30 years playing a video game that then another video came out that they had to learn, then another video came out. So they're used to that rapid change. They're used to that rapid ability to be able to look and say, I can't, I got to learn something new. And so there's some leadership that you might want to be looking at to say, am I the best leader inside that organization? Because some people we find that some of the new leadership that we deal with, when we find the right people, they're willing to make those changes and they're willing to kind of lead us through that. So, but if you don't, be prepared for your competitors to do it, because, whether it's my industry, your industry, manufacturing or whatever, there are competitors that are out there looking to transform their businesses or are already transformed and they're out there. We just haven't seen them yet, that are looking to put us out of business, right? So you're in, right? Your game. I want to transform my business. Let's get started transforming together. What are we going to do about that, right? How are we going to transform our organizations? Well, the first thing is we want to dream. We want to be like that baker that saw this opportunity in making a gluten-free version of something that everybody wanted because he couldn't do his job anymore. But when opportunity happens during those greatest times of disruption, and when there's greatest change in there. So to be honest with you, the world's our oysters right now to recreate what we do and to look out there and say, can we be more successful? And can we take a more digital transformative mindset, right? So dream about it. Think about what it would look like. Think about if you're prepared for it. It's really out there. And I think about some of these great things that we could do that we could never do before with the new technologies that are out there. Go out and create an R&D team, not just yourself, but every company, big or small, needs to spend some time doing research and development, looking at the new technologies that are out there, looking at their processes and procedures and whether they can make them better and who their partners are that are going to help them do that. Create a research and development team. It could be 2 people. It could be, if you're a 1-person company, it can be you and a couple of your buddies that, you pay on the side or whatever. Create some kind of R&D team that's going to help you focus on what the things that are out there, what the technologies that are out there that you might be able to take advantage of, right? Have disruption meetings, right? This is something that we want to say. The goal of this meeting is to say, what's going to put my business out of business? If some manufacturer, if some business came in and they created this product today, I'd be useless, all right? So think about that. If it happened, and can you create that product, right? Can you create that thing that would totally revolutionize your industry? Or if you can't, how are you going to argue against that? What are you going to do to make sure that your business is safe from these products that might put us out of business? So that whether it's Blockbuster or Yahoo or whatever, they can look out and say, oh my God, this company is out there, small little company is all of a sudden, changing the way everybody's buying something or changing the way everybody's buying what we sell. We want to be out there looking for that. It's that kind of foresight mentality, right? So if you create what's called a disruption meeting, do it once a year or every 6 months and say, what is it that's going to put our business out of business? What are we looking out there? What cool things have you seen that other businesses are doing that we need to know about, right? So I say implement some kind of an EOS operating system. We're an EOS shop. If you don't know what EOS means, it's an entrepreneurial operating system. Runs off of the book that we use called Traction. There's methodologies to doing that, to being transformative. There's other things like Scrum and Agile that you can use but create some kind of processes and procedure to do that, to set goals, to track your transformation, to put out not just what we're doing today, but in the EOS model, it says, where do we want to be in 10 years? And where do we want to be in 3 years? And then how do we do that in a year? And then how do we affect that in 90 days so that we're all working towards a goal and we're in this constant transformative mindset? And it allows you to be flexible because those 10-year goals, they might change, regularly, but those 1 year and 3 year goals, you're kind of, you're setting it up so that everybody kind of knows where the organization's going. So some kind of a process that lets everybody know that we're in a transformation period. We have to transform our business, and this is the roadmap that we're going to use to do it. I said we use the Traction EOS model. There's other ones out there, but I really recommend that that you get on that kind of a foresight looking product. Search out the best people and partners. When I say that, having a partner like Bimser, that's really out there, and we know we've used them. That's really helped transform some of our customers. That really has a transformative mindset and looks at how your processes and procedures not just don't work digitally, but don't work in the real world, and how you can make them digital and how you can put out a better process at the end, deliver a better product to your consumers or even to your employees, because we want to deliver a better product to employees now because it's very hard to find good people. So together like that with good partners, we can transform our futures. So I put some out here. This is kind of some references for what I do, some of the books that I used, some of the things that I read, and we'll have these slides up for you guys. Link to that video, some other really cool videos about, what it is, how I come up and what I read to go out there. Flash Foresight's one of my favorite books that talks about how we become disruptors and how we, get out of the burden of the past and that kind of stuff. So this is just some stuff for you guys to look at. We'll share that in a slide. And that's what I got for you guys. This is our road to digital transformation. I think it begins with us just talking about it, thinking about where we are, and looking out for those really good partners and people that are going to help with that digital mindset. So thank you so much. I have any questions that are out there, I would love to answer. I don't know if there's any questions, but super happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Chris. Much appreciated. So let's see if we have any questions. So for our attendees, we have a question section on your screen where you can type your questions and our panelists can see. So some questions we already have been receiving. Some of them you may have it in your mind, you may want to ask. The Q&A button is available for you. You can click it and you can type your question there for us to address. So one of the questions that I got, Chris, if you can address, that'd be great. So what is the most important part of digital transformation? The most important element as to
listen,
transform an organization.
the most important element of digital transformation is mindset. It really is getting into a mindset that is not fearful of the future, that is not fearful of what, you know, is coming out there, because these things are coming anyway, right? These technologies are coming. And for too long, we've tried to put these barriers up that stop us, that say, hey, I can hold off forever, but we can't. And you can't do all of it, but you have to have a mindset that is really not, you know, just surround the fort, but we got to go out there and explore too. So that changing that mindset of not being fearful, but being explorative is really what we see inside businesses. And you know, it's really, that's what it is. It's really just getting rid of those fears and saying it's part of the game nowadays to be transformative.
I have another question. So in terms of digital transformation, is it good for certain industries based on your experience, or you have been able to, you know, see different examples?
Well, there's definitely certain industries that kind of don't have a choice of digital transformation, or at least it's more difficult not to make those. And you know, so certainly in an industry like mine, I don't have much of a choice. It's transforming whether or not we like it, from security reasons. And that manufacturing, you know, there are plenty of manufacturers that, you know, manufacturing is such a broad term that manufacturer who does a job-based manufacturer they might not have to change as much. They're doing one job at a time. They're doing that, versus a manufacturer who wants to compete with something that's coming in from China, and these most beautiful setup facilities, and we want to be able to produce that stuff here. If they're trying to do it and they're trying to compete, even, you know, even regionally, you know, in New York versus North Carolina or something like that, if those industries, they can't really succeed unless they're doing that transformative model, because they're not going to be as productive, and their consumers are not going to be as happy with. It's not even that the product is necessarily not as good, and the outcome that the consumer gets is not a high quality product, but they don't want to just know about the product. They want to know about how long it's going to take the product to get there and what stage is it in there. And, you know, they want this kind of, sometimes this real time inventory to be set up for them, or they want to be able to know, can I get 3 of the products today and 6 of the products tomorrow? So the consumer that's digitally transforming, right, that has expectations of how come Amazon can do this and you can't, that's what's kind of driving a lot of those industries. So it is, every industry is subject to this, right? But when we think about it from a municipality standpoint, those municipalities, because they run their own shows, they're just starting to get into this, a lot of them into this digital transformation model. They haven't really been forced to do it yet. There's still a lot of the municipalities out there that are running off of PDFs that you download off their website. And I know Jim from my office is going to talk a little bit more about this later, and boxes of papers that they flip through. I mean, I go to, in my county, if you want to go get a record, you got to go all the way out to, you know, Riverhead, and they got this big book. They're going to open this, you know, like they're still doing stuff like that, right? And you're like, you know, yes, blow the dust off of it. So they, you know, there's not as much, not that there's not a need for it, but there's not as much demand for it because they have all the control. So there's industries that don't need to change as much, and there's certainly industries that need to change more.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. Let me see if there is any other questions that I'm receiving. Looks like we have no other questions at the moment. So, well, it's been actually very helpful for us to actually learn about digital transformation. So that was actually a great presentation. So as we learn from it, it's not only about technology. There is a lot of leadership involved, and it's also at, you know, change management in a way that we need to be managing it, and that is very important in a way that you know, get it started, plan it, implement it, as well as to make sure that it actually sustains, right? That stays for good. So that's also very, very important. So in that sense, Chris, thank you very much for your presentation. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Yes, so to our attendees, of course, if you have any other questions, you can stay in touch with Chris. With Chris and TechWorks, we work very close. As we always say at Bimser International, there is nothing better than a great partnership. So we value our partnerships, we value our customers, and that is very important for us. So as I mentioned earlier, SYNERGIZE is a platform. We talk about digital transformation, we talk about benefits of technology, as well as it's a way to share experiences, of our customers as well as of our channel partners nationally and internationally. So that's a great opportunity. In that sense, thank you very much, Chris, for the presentation and for sharing your insights. Thank you. Great. So